Well, welcome to another Montessori Lives, conversations with notable Montessorians. And this evening, we're very honored to have with us Daniel Scruggs. And he is a Montessori trained educator, professional musician, and the creator of the Peace Culture music method. Now, Daniel's traveled all around the world, at least 25 countries, right? Collecting musical instruments and cultural artifacts and designing learning environments that engage children through movement, rhythm, and cultural exploration. Now, his work sits at the intersection of Montessori education, peace education, and experiential learning. And he offers a powerful model for engaging students who might not otherwise thrive in traditional academic environments. So, today we'll explore his approach and how that approach can inform Montessori practice and how educators can create deeply engaging, inclusive learning environments. So, welcome, Daniel. And can you begin by sharing your journey, how you moved from being a musician and a cultural explorer into Montessori education?
Sure. Well, let me thank you first for welcoming me on here. I'm so glad to have connected with you and be connected with all the different Montessorians out there in Australia. So, what an honor and what a cool time to be alive. You can be connected on this medium. So, thank you for that. I have been collecting musical instruments and cultural artifacts for about 25 years. So before that, um, I grew up going to a traditional school. I grew up in Williamsburg, Virginia, which is the kind of the confluence of Native America, African American experience, and Europeans. So I grew up right in that area that we call Jamestown or Williamsburg, Virginia. So grew up around a lot of culture. And I'm gonna see if I can. Okay, great. I can see y'all. I grew up around just immersed in culture because where I live, we have what's called a living history museum, Colonial Williamsburg. So people dress up as 18th century characters, and it's really strange actually for people that don't live here, but it was my reality. So from age 10 to 18, I was in this boys' fife and drum corps being a reenactor for 18th century field musicians. So this is a tradition that's pretty common here in the Northeast of the United States. And I was in this corps, and the older boys taught the younger boys. There were only two adults in the whole program. So there's over 100 of us kids, and the older boys taught the younger boys. And until actually the year after I left, there were no girls in the corps. So that was kind of an interesting facet that you wouldn't see something like that anymore, probably. Um, the music experience started even before that. My granddad noticed that I was a really restless kid, and he used to teach me how to play patterns on my body, which we call rudiments in snare drumming. It's everything from right, left to more complex ones like the paradiddle, right, left. Um, and there's 40 of those. So he was teaching me those from an early age, and it coincided really well with my let's see, I would say complications with formal education started probably around 8 years old or so. I was starting to get behind in my work, and I was starting to not be able to, I was showing signs of learning disabilities, is what they call it then. So had to go through this whole rigmarole of getting tested, and was diagnosed with dysgraphia. So it was nice to have figured out that there was something that I could be aiming at to work on. But I think as a kid, it was still a time where they basically took us, the LD kids, as we were called, learning disabled kids, and we were relegated to like half of the day at special classes where we were supposed to get specialized learning, uh, adaptive, tools. But it was a time where it was still forming kind of a model of how to how to be inclusive and also how to give services. So a lot of times it was on the surface, it looked like these things were happening, like from a bureaucratic surface point of view. But then when it trickled down to the actual classroom, a lot of times we were mixed in and it was the ED kids, emotionally disturbed, learning disabled, and then like low IQ kids. So we were all in the same class, and a lot of times they wouldn't have a specialist that was able to guide us in any meaningful way. So a lot of times we were just coloring pictures and things, and a lot of like anger and violence in some of the children. So I say that because at an early age, I started really hating school, and I have learned probably the last 10 years how much that marginalization hurt my little self inside of me. The message I got was I was stupid, and I think that's probably the worst thing that anybody can think of themselves, especially when they're like me. I was always hungry for learning. I loved to learn. So fast forward, I stayed in the fife and drum corps and graduated that, and then I ended up getting a special admission to college. They had some spots available. My mom helped me out writing this letter to get access to college with special education, and I just couldn't hang in college. I worked on it, but I was not able to do it at that time. So um, I don't want to get too carried away in the backstory, but basically, I also was surfing from a young age. So around the time I had been in college, I also started playing professionally in like rock bands. So I was a pretty good drummer, so I was able to be able to have a steady job when I left college after the second year. But as I was also studying jazz drumming as well and playing in the school pet. So I had a pretty good foundation in the area, and I would save up money and I would go on trips with some of the older kids that surfed that I knew that were in like their mid 20s. I was in my early 20s. So we started going to California, and then we drive rental cars down into Mexico and surf there. And then it evolved into going to Indonesia, when I was 22. And so, yeah, it was pretty wild looking back now, but I was in really good shape. And, it was interesting though, because I found when I got out there to Indonesia, this is a different time. This is right before that big bombing happened in Bali. It was actually a month. I was there about a month before. And when the surf wasn't happening, everybody just kind of relaxed and rested and just waited for the surf. And I realized that for me, I was so interested in the culture. So I would take a little motorbike and just ride around. Or I had met up with a local there, and he would tell me, "Hey, I want to take you to see the real Indonesia." And so we were on this island, Sumbawa, which is a basically island just for that surfers know, south of Bali. And he took me all around into these rural areas, and the people would be because it's 100% Muslim there except for Bali. So, this is right after 9/11 too. So tell that because I got this interesting cultural window into coming from a place where people were afraid of Muslim people, but nobody knew any Muslim people. And then I
Mm.
go to this place and everybody there is Muslim and they're welcoming me with open arms.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with traveling like deeper and deeper at that point. And I was there for a month. I went through all kinds of tribulations, got really sick, etc. But that led me on a journey to start traveling. And then I started, yeah, I started going to the Arab world. I went to Egypt and backpacked around there, Jordan and Israel, and then I fell in love with Arabic because I wasn't able to take languages in high school because of my learning disabilities. They said I wouldn't be good at language. I would be set up to fail, which interestingly enough, I ended up taking to Arabic really quickly. So I learned to read and write Arabic, and then I moved to Yemen to do a internship there. And while I was there, I went down to Ethiopia and stayed there for a while. And So, anyways, I went to a lot of places that most people usually don't go because I've always been fascinated with ancient history and culture and indigenous culture. So, fast forward, I kind of hopscotched around, and I would do like a semester of college. I'd be committed to doing college and finishing what I started. And I'd go to one college for 2 semesters and work landscaping. And then I will work at an after school program. And then I stopped college again and I worked at a psychiatric hospital for 2.5 years. And then I went to college again for 3 semesters. And then I started working at a jail doing a music program. So I would was really good at creating and implementing programs at these they call it psychosocial rehabilitation. So it's like
Mm.
helping people to get integrated back into society, or people in harsh environments, at risk marginalized people, if you will, populations, that is. So when I was in my late 20s, moved to Charleston, South Carolina, and needed work. And I started doing after school programs there. And then I started teaching a big homeschool collective, some of the things I had picked up traveling, like West African drumming. And then I would do Afro-Brazilian capoeira, which is like a dance, a martial art disguised as a dance. I'd been in Brazil 3 times as well. I was part of a group down there. So I want to make this succinct because I know we don't have all day. This is just my background, but it's
An
important
interesting
to
story.
thank you.
Yeah. Sounds like
It's
travel is
important.
your education because
Yeah,
school
yeah,
failed
yeah.
you.
That's it. I made the world my school, and it's wild because still this time looking back, it seems like it all kind of makes sense, but at
Mhm.
the time, I was just fighting this imminent doom feeling because I didn't know what I was going to do. I was just, my parents didn't graduate college and they worked really hard for me to go to college. I worked around a lot of blue collar people that expected me to take advantage of, that gift. And, you know, I'm, as I said, I realized that I just had terrible self-esteem from always doing poor performance. I was never able to perform. And I've also been diagnosed with ADHD. So that was just in the background. Like, and only in my adult life have I realized how difficult that has been as well. But I've kind of created my life to not have to deal with that. So let me get back to saying that when I was in Charleston, I was doing some after school programs like at the Boys and Girls Club and uh, some other different places, just one-off things. And then I met this group of kind of what we call hippie families, and just kind of people that worked hard and they were real into just listening to music, going on tours. That's a common thing where we live in the States. You could take a van and just travel around and follow your favorite band. So it's families like this, and they said, we really want you to teach our kids like some of this stuff that you know. And so I would do like surf camps and African drumming, and I would do capoeira. Well, word got around that I was doing this, and it happened that 2 different families had children in these homeschool collectives, and these families owned Montessori schools. And
Mm.
so they said, hey, we want you to start working at our school, doing these classes during school as part of our culture, studies. And then you can also teach after school programs there, and you can take, whatever profits you make. And so it was kind of a dream gig for me. And it's funny because I didn't really know anything about Montessori, except that when I was a kid, there was one friend I had that went to Montessori school. And so it's funny when you're a kid what you associate things with. So I always thought that Montessori people, they drove Volvos and they ate cheese and they drank wine. That's like who Montessori like parents were. And
Yeah.
so I was like, that wasn't really my family at all. So I assumed that it was something different than us.
Yeah.
So you know, when I meet these like really diverse, somewhat diverse characters in this world, and they were so interested in my sort of off the beaten path life, it really validated me, and I took it really serious because I'm like, man, they're affirming these things that I love, you know, and it was like very genuine, their interest in what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so I start working at these Montessori schools, and one of them had four different campuses, and the other one had one. So between those four or five, you know, schools, I was getting around there for a while. So that's where I intersected with
Okay.
Montessori.
All right. So you developed this peace culture music method. So what problem in education were you trying to solve when you created this method? And can you
Um,
describe what the method is?
yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, it's like I kind of created my learning experience from what I had in front of me because I've always been a restless soul. So it's like
Mm.
I've realized that I have a similar experience to a lot of learners that are considered like hard to reach or neurodivergent. That wasn't really a thing when I was young, like I said. But what I found was is that if a person like me can get engaged, then they can learn. And you can't learn without being engaged. And so if you're able to reach these hard to reach learners, then you're definitely able to get engagement from kids who just naturally are able to focus. And so what my connection started to be was that when I learn, it's like I learn best almost in a format like a magic show or a stand-up comedy act. It's like it goes in scenes. So it's like it may be something passive, but then it has a climax to it. And then it's something and it's catered you know, it's sort of facilitated in a way where it goes up and down so that the whole time there's this engagement and then there's this passivity and engagement. And so what I realized was that in working with these populations that were considered like heavily at risk and hard to reach, like building programs for the jail or for the psych hospital or in a lot of really at risk communities with youth, like the Black Americans have you know a lot of pockets of still very segregated areas here with lack of resources, high violence, high crime. So what I found was is that I had been creating this model because I had so much face time with these groups. I would have to show up and do an hour and then have a half-hour break and do another hour, half-hour break. And it's like I wasn't gonna, they're not the kind of kids where like with me, you just give us a picture to draw when we were kids. And then if you're in school, they just yell at you or send you to the principal if you get in trouble. These kids, we didn't have really any way to reprimand. So it was like you have to figure out a way to keep the engagement authentically. So what I found was that, you know, music, the cliche of it being a universal language, but also it lends itself to creating a space for communication that doesn't have to be verbal. It creates space for a reciprocity between the group and the individual. So a person is able to have increased confidence. And um, I think a lot of the problem that you know I was trying to solve was it's almost like had a thought come to mind, and I don't think it's the right metaphor. It's like it's almost like recidivism in um, institutions where inmates leave jail and then they come back. It's almost like the opposite of that. It's like if you can get somebody engaged to love learning um, and curiosity, then then it shifts their whole perspective. It's
Yeah.
like they're not going to leave the path of learning and loving learning. So that's kind of like what it is, and then kind of the main the main parts of like peace culture music method. It's like there's components that are hands on. Again, it's got these different stages to it. So like ideally anyone can do this. Like it can't be a method if it's only because of my magic skills. It's like it has to be replicable. So I've been working on a book that I just finished about it, and I'm really excited about it. It's done. I just have to. I'm just getting a few people to read it because it's kind of been something I've been staring at for like 5 years. So it's hard for me to tell if I'm really getting it through. But I love the concept of making things that are cultural, not um, making them presented in a way that's authentic. And I'm fascinated with the experiences I had meeting people in real life, and that created the opportunity to have, dignity and humanity with my
Mm.
interactions with people, rather than just seeing things as an abstract concept, like people in a faraway place. So it's tying in culture, participation, um, whole child. It's the body, mind, it's emotions, and of course it's social. I think one of the things that we lack a lot in this world now that we used to have as kids, and a lot of it is just because of screens. It's like we used to get together in huge gatherings of people, and we learned how to regulate as a group. And that's something we just don't have very much of, and you almost can't blame kids for not
Yeah.
knowing how to do that. So yeah, so it's some of these things.
Yeah. Can you describe like in some detail how what methods you might use to engage, to get that engagement, to get that interest?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, really, it depends on the age. Like I think a universal one is body percussion. It's using use like I said, the rudiments of the snare drum. For instance, I will take a snare drum and then I'll give the background of that instrument. I'll talk about the materials that are made in it, and I use a lot of things that understand to be ancient techniques of human presentation, like call and response. I say,
Yeah.
these, what is, can you tell what this is made out of? And then they'll say wood. And they'll say, where does wood come from? Trees. And I'll say, yeah, a lot of old instruments that we find all around the world were made of natural materials like trees. This particular one has leather skin on top and bottom. And this is actually cow skin. And we call this the head of the drum. And they'll be like, oh, if they're real young. And then um, it's an art to that as well, because um, you have to be able to time it, because if you let the kids talk too much. I do groups of, I mean, 40 is a small group, but I mean, I did 600 a couple times this year, 600 kids. And I don't use a microphone when I do it, because I want it to be, which 600 is about maxing out with that. But the the point of that is that when people have gathered for as long as time, people shared in this exact way. There was no technology, no electricity, and I love that to
Yeah.
show them that. So back to your question, if we were going to demonstrate the snare drum, I would say, we can use our bodies as the snare drum, and we can make these rudiments by doing patterns with our hands on our knees. And so I'll say, be gentle with your body. It's the only body you have. And then we'll do like right, left. And that's single stroke roll. Right, left, right, left, left. That's a double stroke roll. The flam is left, right, like two almost at the same time, and on and on. I don't go too much with it because you could lose the focus. But there's that, or I've got a don't have it close, but what we know is tambourine in the United States or English speaking cultures. In Brazil, that's the pandero drum, and it's the drum of the capoeira music. So
Mhm.
I will tell them to, and it's really cool because with the emphasis on the hands, it's really fun to share this because you can have children. I could say, hey, since I don't have one for everybody, I'm going to invite you to use your hand and pretend that it's a pandero so that when you get one, you'll know how to play it. So I'm going to play mine and then you play on your hand. So we have the thumb, and then we have fingertips, then we have the clap, then we have the shake. And then all together it's thumb, shake, da, da, da. But then I get them to clap the pattern, and then I play the pandero on top of it, and then we do call and response singing. So that's just one example. Like I said, it's kind of like a magic show or something. I'm not a
Mhm.
one trick pony, but I do a lot of the same and usually I share about 25 instruments in the hour that I do presentations. And if it's infants, I'll do a lot of little jingly things, and I'll do a lot of stuffed animal gymnastics and stuff.
I was
But
going to say, it
it's
looks like your artifacts are a big part of your engagement. Can you show us around the kind of things that
yeah,
you've
yeah,
got
yeah,
there in
yeah,
your
yeah, yeah. I'll give you a quick tour. So yeah, let's see. This is just kind of like the ode to traveling. So I got all my passports and different things and like money from different countries and stuffed animals, taxidermied animal. Um, this is some things from Peru. So these are ancient instruments from Peru, and they're copies that my friend down there makes, who's a Native American, and he makes them exactly the same as they were found in some of the huacas or ancient places in Peru. He's an ethnomusicologist, and I go down there and I try to learn everything I can. These are all also replicas, except this one is a real one. I bought that one's some 1,000 years old. These are different Afro-Peruvian instruments here as well, and then this is Native American things. Where I live, we can find arrowheads. And
Mm.
then I when I travel, I get also jewelry from different indigenous places. And I've been to five native reservations. So whenever I'm out there, I always give free programs as just something to keep in balance with everything. So I've been welcome to five reservations. Actually, I was gifted this by one of the Montessori schools that is on one of our First Nations. This is a friend of mine who is a member of the Zuni people, and he carves these special, they're called fetishes, out of natural materials. This is one out of abalone shell, and they're all different animals, and they have different symbology to these people. These are like round frame drums, and they're from different areas of the world, but that's a universal kind of sound tool. These are interesting ones. They're different kinds of conch shell horns, and we got stuff from India. These are all like sound healing, as people call them. These are crystal bowls. They're packed up right now. This is some of my pride and joy. Um, these are different. Y'all know about these. They're some of them are didgeridoos, and then some of them very particular about saying some of the things that y'all I would assume know. Just that, this instrument has over 20 names depending on the different region and people who are the owners of the instrument. So the one that I usually travel with is a yadaki from the Yongu people in northeast Arnhem Land, and it was made by this man, Dapa Ganambar. And that one's actually in my van right now from traveling with it. But I have this is an indigenous one. This is indigenous. This is indigenous. These are from Bali, so I'm kind of interested in like people that kind of appropriate culture. It's kind of weird. Like this, perfect example of that too. It's like this is a real. These are packed up from a school visit, but this is one made by an Aboriginal person, and then this one says Chief Boomerang, and I got it at like a thrift store, and it's made in Taiwan, and I just think it's the most ridiculous thing. But then I'll give you one more minute of it. These are all crosses from the ancient churches in Ethiopia. This is an indigenous headrest.
Mm.
Um, these are indigenous jewelry. And then this is a real sword from Yemen that the men wear on their belt like this. You see it in this guy's belt. But I take these pictures with me so that the students can see me with my different friends that I've met in other places. So I have a bunch of those, and I won't fill the interview too much, but I'll tell you, I have a whole nother room in here that's African stuff. So I've got a lot of like hats. This is African American things. My friend and teacher Eddie Osborne is an amazing artist that makes African American instruments. I have an elephant foot, but I got it legally. It's very, very old. These are lamellophones, steel pan instruments. These are African drums, of course. These are Jamaican Rastafarian drums, West African. These are snare drums, like the kind I grew up playing. And then finally, these are the instruments of capoeira. And this is my group. And our master there, he's like 80 years old, and he's of a lineage that goes all the way back to an enslaved person. So it's an honor to be tied into that group and that tradition. So I do my best to keep the tradition as authentically as it was shared with me, and just
What an
keep.
amazing collection.
Thanks. If you're ever here, you have an
Oh,
invite. You have a personal tour awaiting
a
you.
veritable
Uh,
museum.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Could
where all
you,
this stuff is.
I'm sure you don't have like one favorite, but is there an instrument that you could choose that you could play us?
Yeah, definitely. So this one, see, this one here is really cool, man. This one came from Peru, and it's part of a set of instruments I have. Now, this is a shaman, and as you probably know, in some cultures before people had medicine, or like doctors like we have, they would use sound, and they would use different types of rituals to help people get free of sickness. So they believe generally that it's like bad spirits on you. So this one is able to be played by blowing. What makes it significant is it's the only instrument I know of that uses the four elements. So it's air, that blows through it, and then it's water that I'm going to pour in, and then it's earth because it's made of clay, and then the fire burns the clay. So once I
Mm.
pour this water in, you're able to hear them sing. Are you able to hear that?
No.
Oh no, hold on. I just realized that probably a setting on Zoom is making it so that it's
Yeah.
in a, you know what? I'm gonna just really quickly take off my headphones settings. So maybe that will
Yeah. No, it's not coming through. Oh, what a shame.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, that's so anticlimactic.
Oh,
Sorry. Did you hear it at all?
no.
Oh
Zoom
my
is really good
goodness.
at cutting out background
Yeah,
noise,
exactly.
isn't it?
Exactly. Well, just imagine that it's like singing the
Yeah.
sound as I do it.
Wow.
That's very disappointing. Let's see, let me just do this real quick. This is kind of a cool one. This is you hear this at all?
No.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
wow.
not the best mode.
That's
Sometime I have to send you some clips or something.
yeah.
Um, Yeah, the previous one that I just did, that's a really special one. The kalimba is this one is made by this man who's from Zimbabwe, and in southern Africa, there's a group of people called the Shona who are some of the main
Yeah.
keepers of this instrument. And this instrument is it's used for communication with people who
Mm.
have died before us. So it has a
Mm.
very unique, specific purpose. So I love
Mm.
sharing that because I think the sound is so mystical, and it's interesting how it hits people when I share that little tidbit, you know? It's
And
like,
the bottle
huh.
cap on it too is
Y-
interesting.
Yeah, yeah, the resonators. Yeah,
Yeah,
they buzz when you play it. So it's a
yeah,
shame the sound doesn't come through, but
yeah.
when you all come here, I come there.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
welcome.
I've seen clips of you playing various instruments,
Cool, cool.
so we
Yeah,
could
thank you for
include.
letting me share that with
Yeah,
you.
we'll include those. So, how does your approach align with Montessori principles, and
Mhm.
does it extend or reinterpret Montessori principles in any way?
You know, I'd like to think that if Montessori had lived like another 100 years or something, she would have gone deeper into the music components. And um, yeah, I think on that, like kind of that subject of, what would she have continued on? Because what I
Mm,
found is that if there's one thing that's true to me about most of the stuff I learned reading her work and seeing it in practice, it's very organic. It's like she has followed human development. It's like it goes. It's like I said, I didn't realize that I was learning Montessori style when I was in this fife and drum corps, and the older boys were teaching the younger ones. I was seeing things modeled, and it just and my hands. The fact that I learned so much. Um, it, it, so I think that some of the things that really um, come very natural with doing this method. It's like prepared environment. It's really important for me to model taking care of things that are precious. I
mm,
tell people when I was a child, my great grandmother would let us touch things, but she would set it very gently in our hand. And we were modeled that specialness of something. And so for me, it's the same thing. I tell the children, I have all these little one-liner things. Just being a performer, sharing these explorations so long. And I say, I want these to last for hundreds of years. I want
mm.
to take care of them in a way that once I'm gone, somebody else is going to share this collection. That's another thing that I share is it's like these are not mine. I'm the one that protects all of these things. These belong to everybody. I just am lucky to be the person that gets to take care of them this time. And so it's one of the main ones to me is like cosmic education and cosmic task. I tell people I think I'm going to change my LinkedIn title to the world's richest man, because I tell people that I'm the richest person in the world, because it's fun to tell kids because they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't have very much money, but I get to do something that I'm really good at. I get to share it with other people and bring them joy." And what's the third one? I get to make a living doing it. I get to make a dignified life doing that. And if you can do that, then you're the richest person in the world. And to me, that's AKA like cosmic task.
You have purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, you have purpose. And like tell kids all the time, I grew up around a lot of poor people and a lot of really rich people. And it was fascinating how some of the very wealthy people they were miserable. They couldn't find fulfillment and purpose. And
Yeah.
and so yeah, and then there's the obvious like low hanging fruit. It's like peace education. It's like it's humanizing and dignifying people in other places and not seeing it as like a kind of token thing. It's not some fad. It's not like we're doing this because for no other reason that we're a human family. Like to me it's like we are our brother's keeper type vibe, and like I really know that to be true. I feel so fortunate to have grown up in a place that was very diverse, so it
And
makes
you're
it a little
showing that we
easier.
have we have a lot to learn from other cultures. So each culture has
Totally.
different things to teach us. So you emphasize engaging the whole child. What
Hmm.
changes do you typically see in children when they move from passive learning to this participatory music-based experience that you bring.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so it's I think that rather than just being, cerebral, it's like the combination of like moving moving and listening, like freedom within with limits, like it's a lot of moving and really connecting again as the whole, as part of a whole larger group. It's like what and then having such a range of things that it's like multiple entry points for different learners. It's like you've got something for everybody at some point that's going to keep them engaged. And I think that that's it's the mind and the body, the emotions and the socialization together. It's 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 hard to quantify things like this, but the proof is in it's in the whole child. It's in the confidence and the independence that comes from. There's something that we all enjoy when you've had a good like social experience, and not every I try to sort of yeah, I don't want to say like social engineer it, but it's more like that's where I really try to emphasize that what I'm doing shouldn't be like a performance. It's more of an interactive presentation, or I use the word educoncert. It's like it's because I want it to be like, if I'm doing it right, then I'm part of it. Like I'm adapting to the room. So
Mhm.
yeah, my
Yeah.
coffee's
What
kicking in.
what why, why do you, it's pretty early there, so we really appreciate that you were able to get up and be with us
Sure,
at 4 a.m. where
sure,
you are.
Yeah,
But
it's
sure.
what?
4:41. I've just checked.
Oh,
I'm
I
very
just
impressed. Daniel, you don't even look tired. You look
I'm
amazing.
excited. I'm excited about this stuff. Give me any
obviously this
excuse
revs
to.
you up, this whole thing,
Yeah,
yeah. What
I love this stuff.
why do rhythm, movement, and sound seem to unlock this engagement for so many learners? Well, how did that work for you? And how do you see it working for children that you work with?
Um, yeah, so it's really like a panacea kind of like um if a person can find, and it takes practice. It can't be done with like a weekend workshop. It can be introduced, I think, to guides, but it takes a lot um of like following the child, following the learner. So it's like you find the thing that, and I say that because if you just do something like silly and like kind of low bar, too easy, then it gets old really quick. But if you can
Mhm.
find right when something is a challenge, but it makes it fun, and then you purposely, like for example, there's little like tricks of the trade where it's like you teach some pattern and then you very slowly get it faster and faster, and then it gets to the point where people start feeling anxious because adults don't like to, like nobody likes to like drop something in front of everybody. But then you turn it into like, hey, there's no consequence of this, we're just playing around. I think in my mind I went to the extreme example of like when I'm in a jail, for instance, and there's a lot of facade. It's like it's tough, like seriousness, like you can't show any weakness, but it's like people are yearning to be humanized and to have a collective kind of
Mhm.
breath and vulnerability in a safe space. So it's like if you can create that, um it's universal human language, um and what it's like it creates a group regulation, and in a safe and not like compliance based way. It creates again, this is one of those ancient things that people have been doing for as long as time, and it gives the ability, again, if it's done right, everyone can participate, and therefore they feel like they belong in the group. And one of the cool things is too is that like I've come to find that it's just as participatory if somebody chooses not to, because then they're getting the opportunity to have that empowerment over their own um their own it's early, but yeah, they're
Yeah.
I'm losing the word. It's there's a perfect word, but
Yeah.
I'm not getting it. Yeah.
They're,
So
they're
yeah.
choosing not to participate, which is part of being free to choose.
Yeah, and fortunately, like what's really cool is that a lot of times it's by giving that permission that in the next round or whatever they end up doing
Yeah.
it, and maybe they're really like,
Yeah.
I don't like to use the word good too much in like music, but it's like they
Yeah.
may be very gifted at it, and that may come out only by allowing them to have their own agency. That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah. 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 We see that in Montessori classrooms, of course, where there are learners who want to stand back and watch for the
Mm,
and once they've observed and watched others doing it, then they dive in. They may not want to dive in the first time.
yeah.
How does exposure to global music and culture contribute to peace education in prisons? Do you see
Um,
those populations really, you know, benefiting from that and craving it?
yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that one is just really validating sometimes when people see a broad range of human experience, because a lot of times these people that I work with, um, it's hard. You can't really generalize people, but you can make certain generalizations about the populations. Like for instance, where I live and volunteer on Fridays in this juvenile detention center, and I've been going there for probably 12 or 13 years. And it's fascinating how the circumstances of these children, again, generalization of the group of population, it's like most of them have lived like in violence or in single parent households where one of the parents is incarcerated. And then the other one is that they're a very transient population. So they're never able to get continuity with their learning experience. So they're very withdrawn with regards to offering anything up because they're afraid that they've already learned that there's gaps in what their knowledge is. So they might know a lot of things and they might have a lot of intuitive understanding of things, but the last thing they want to have happen is to be shamed, and because it's going to require like physical confrontation, probably. It's all this myriad of things. But that being said, to your question, there's something really validating, I think, about um, opening up that box of curiosity and the vastness of the world. It's that cosmic concept. It's like, wow, people can only, you know, we can only imagine as far as our imagination has been peaked to. So it's like when we're exposed to something different, I tell the kids in one way or another, it's like once your mind is open to something, it can't be closed again. It can't be small again. And that's for some that's scary, and for others that's like the most invigorating concept because yeah, I think seeing how big the world is, and then that's a lot of the reason too where I like printed out these posters of me in different places because
Mm.
it's it's not my favorite thing to look at pictures of myself all over the place, but when I realized that I had a few of them printed out, and I found that the children were really fascinated with it because it's like the juxtaposition. Obviously, I'm like, a lot of my black friends say I'm strange even amongst the whites, as they say, because I'm just like fluorescent white with like orange hair. And I've just all my life I hung out with black people. So it's kind of funny because when I'm in these institutions, a lot of times it's mostly black, unfortunately. And I think a lot of the young people, they it's it, I would like to think that it says something about like, because a lot of my pictures, I'm with very different looking people. Like I'm a complete minority in a foreign place. So it's like, I think thinking people can see that, I'm not equating myself to being a marginalized person of color. But on the other hand, it kind of says, well, dang, I mean, Mr. Daniel's just standing there in the middle of nowhere with all these people. And it's like, I know Mr. Daniel, so it's like, huh, like sometimes it's, I get questions about like, what's it like to da da da. And it's like, I've got to imagine that that's modeling I mean, again, as I get older, I realize how unique that is. But because of my certain path and things, I, I didn't really step back a lot and look at like, wow. I mean, I came from before like selfie generation and stuff. I was like the last generation that traveled with no phone, just a snap camera, So, anyways, it's kind of cool how these things work.
Yeah. So you train educators to use your method, right? So
Yeah.
what are some what are some simple ways that Montessori teachers or school leaders can begin to incorporate your approach into their classrooms?
Yeah, so I've been real fortunate to do a whole range of different immersion experiences. So a lot of what I talk about is sort of like cosmic based things. It's like sharing the universality, like emphasizing some of these rudimentary human connection tools, such as ways to get greater engagement among students, such as using, I give a lot of tools that I've used. For instance, things that if it's a primary class, something like just touching each of your fingers to your thumb and then doing, binoculars and turning it into a telescope, then doing butterfly wings and flying in a circle this way or pressing your palms out, doing a series of things that can be used in a circle time to create connection and then also creating a foundation for doing rhythms that are very basic that can I think one of the things I'm really fascinated with is like it's basically the concept of taking something abstract and then turning it into something concrete. And it's kind of like the biome card concept. It's like making something so multifaceted that it becomes real in the imagination. And so it's like it's emphasizing these things that I guess we get in trainings, but there's so much material in training. And then a lot of it is it's the kind of information that I was never really because of my processing issues. It's I have to ask for help. That's not my strong point. And I wish I had more time to do the training again and do a lot of the different things that were more like math science based. But emphasizing this kind of glue, which is I don't want to say it's the fun things because I think Montessori education makes a lot of things really engaging and even fun, but it's things like the music and the culture and making geography exciting and relevant, and then making people and social studies exciting and relevant, and using music and rhythm as glue between those things.
Mm.
That's a lot of what I do in these. Not to be too abstract, but
Yeah.
I've been real fortunate to do a lot of trainings in different schools and with some different Montessori organizations.
What are some common mistakes that educators make when they're trying to introduce experiential or arts-based learning?
Um, good question. I think that one of the main things is that again it goes back to what I was saying before. Like in my trainings, one of the things that I work on with educators is that you can't. It's like children feel your vibe. You can talk all day, but they can feel what you're conveying. So when an educator goes up and wants to do, if their school doesn't have a music teacher, then it's music's on them in their classroom, you know? So it's like, if they decide to get a little musical concept and then do it in their circle, but they look really awkward and they're apologizing for themselves for being a bad musician and these things, it's like, and like, I've got to do this for y'all and I'm just not a music, it's like, there's no reason for that. Like, that is something that we have been acculturated to take in. But you know, when I traveled to other places of the world, especially like African diaspora or places that have a heavy emphasis on group music making, people don't seem to consider themselves like, you don't have to be a professional musician to be a musician. It's like in our culture, it's like if you play basketball, you got to be doing it to be like a serious pro. It's like, no, you can just play and enjoy it because it's play. And so I
Mm.
think that um, modeling it as something that is our birthright, you know, whether that's voice or rhythm or playing an instrument without necessarily um, the pursuit of mastery, you know, which I don't really believe that much in that anyway, having done, you know, formal drumming for 36 years now. It's like, man, I'm just more beginner than ever. I'm like more
Mm.
excited than ever,
Yeah.
you know, and so to kind of look at things like that, it's like, man, we're that having that childlike wonder and introducing things with that rather than some
Yeah.
fixed
Yeah.
goal. So I hope that
Unique
that gave
group.
you a
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
enough answer. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you share a moment or a story where you saw a significant transformation in a learner through your method?
Oh yeah. Geez, man. Well, a one that comes to mind because I was just reading it because I wrote it in my book was this was a group one, and I actually I still visit this school sometimes, but I visit like 40 or 50 schools a year around the US. I drive a lot. And there's this one school that's really beautifully diverse. It's got like it's like because it's a military city, small city, but it has a lot of military. So there's probably like people from 20 different countries, and the school has 120 students. But
Mm.
I go in this class, and there's probably 30 children in the class, and it was primary, and maybe they had their lower elementary in there as well. So it's fairly young children, and um, I'm showing this. I was showing the Pandero actually, like I was telling you about with the different fingers and thumbs. So I'm sitting there doing my demo, and in my mind, I'm already kind of like I'm already sort of mapping out what I'm going to do next. So that's one of my challenges is staying very present. Because like being a professional drummer my whole life, I mean, I just sit there and like think about other like traveling while I'm playing because I you can kind of just get in the zone, you know. And so I'm sitting there thinking about something else, and I'm kind of mindlessly doing this, and I say, so we're going to take the pandero with this hand, and we're going to shake it like this, and now we're going to pretend that we have this hand is going to play the notes. And so they say, first, we're going to use our wrist. And then everybody, let's just roll our wrists. Our wrists are really magical part of our body. And then we're going to take our thumb and tap it. And I hear this little voice say, Mr. Daniel, I don't have any thumbs. And I'm like thinking, or immediately I'm like, who's this little smartass trying to like tank my show? And I look over and it's this little boy, and he holds up his hands and he has no thumbs on either hand. He just has fingers. And all the kids are looking at us. And it was one of those things where it was so precious because they were too young to, God forbid, like, kids get older and they make fun of people, and they were too young. He was part of their gang, but I was out I'm a person from the outside, And so right in the moment, it was wild. I watched myself and I just said, It's all good. We don't even need thumbs for this. We can make all the sounds with our fingertips. That's the cool thing about the Pandero is, so the point is it was adapting.
Yeah.
Everything, it's massive amount of adapting because I work in a lot of environments where they do like extreme inclusivity. Like I'll be doing a group of 150 from age like 6 to 12, and they'll bring in like a dozen children that have different variants of autism where some of them are like nonverbal and some will just yell. They'll just yell and bang on things, and they don't take the clue to like pull one
Yeah.
of the children out. And so I have to figure out ways to adapt my performance in real time to where, I can't play this quiet instrument right now. That's not going to work. It's not going to give them the journey that we're looking for at that. So yeah, adaptation.
Keep you on your
That's what.
toes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, all
Where,
the time.
you were saying before we're living in interesting times, and it's very a lot of transitions going on, and I don't know about the US. I think it's the same, but in Australia, we're seeing really what is could be termed the beginning of the collapse of traditional education. The
Mm,
populations in traditional public education in Australia are stagnant or declining, depending on where you
mm,
look at. And
mm.
families here are moving towards homeschooling in particular, but also alternative education. Do you think that um, this method of teaching that you culture-based learning will play a significant part in the future of education as it evolves to something that's more adapted to the way humans naturally learn?
I mean, my first answer is yes, because as we see with everything that cycles, it's like people are coming to a dead end in a lot of things that they were seeking fulfillment in that's empty, whether that's substances. A lot of people are getting sober nowadays, whether it's people like going back to nature or starting to be vegetarian. It's like people are embracing these age old timeless things. Hopefully it's before it's too late, so to speak. But I think it's inevitable that humans are going to hit a dead end in their yearning for this like technological race that
Mm.
I mean we're always going against our immortality, and so at the end of the day, um it seems to me that people naturally, and they already are. It's so ironic how the wealthiest people where we live, like they'll go and do like mud treatments on their bodies, and they'll do like sound healing with a didgeridoo, and they'll eat organic food and these things. So it's like they're doing all these things that it's the same as indigenous people do that have
Yeah.
lived forever. And so I think that to answer your question, I think it's going to be definitely nature based. I think it's going to be more trade and survival skill, um, because, and not in like a apocalyptic way, though there's that benefit to having it. But it's just the fact that what are you going to fill your time with that is like regulating the dopamine. I think that we're right on the precipice of it being more mainstream to question our addiction to devices. That it just seems like it's right around the corner, just like cigarettes were. It's going to become almost taboo to be just stuffing our endorphins with raw dopamine from the device. So ideally, that's it's going to move into like yeah, like what's really important, what's really fulfilling and what's sustainable. And that just seems to go back to nature and finding ways to get natural connection through that. Because nobody wants to just go out in the wood. I mean, it's cool to think about and idealize, but it's like unless you have community, we're nothing. We're so it's just so much like toxic individualism now. I think
Mm.
that's one of the main things is like we got to move away from that paradigm of that, but it has to come organically, or which I just wonder if just because people in the West are just getting onto that now, it's like there's still a
Yeah.
whole world of people who haven't gotten to have consumerism yet, to the degree. So it's a whole conversation for another time. But hopefully, it's a great time to be alive. Hopefully, with learners like Montessori education is creating, I tell the children, like a lot of these instruments, they've evolved from one form to another form. And the people that created them, they were creating almost solutions to problems out of creativity. And some of the kids that are out here right now, they're going to be solving these big issues in the world. They're going to create with through education, they're going to create things for the environment and for making sustainability, making more peace, so that's exciting to me, like
Yeah.
I try to stay like really optimistic in that sense, because God knows I can be the worst pessimist if I want to let my mind go there, but I
Yeah.
choose not to.
Yeah. It's
Woo!
so easy to feel this optimism in your story. Um, that's I'm sure a big part of what you bring to your education with students.
Yeah.
That there's
Well,
a lot
thanks.
out there. There's a lot out there in the world to be thankful for and to learn from.
There
Not only,
is, and I think one of the things too is that I've had the unique experience of, I've been to places where like I get a little frustrated with people when they're like, "Oh, U.S. is like it's this like fascist like takeover and it's the worst place," and I'm like, yeah, I mean things are rough right now in the US, but you've not seen rough. Like if you haven't seen how things can be when people don't have food, when they don't have money for, I mean, I've been in sub-Saharan Africa a handful of times, and also Indonesia. I mean, places where like people don't have toilet paper, they don't have running water, they don't have electricity. It's like people don't realize that like more than half the earth lives like that. And then we're talking about like people, like that's the difference between like reading about something or watching it on YouTube. It's like when you go there and you develop friendships with people organically that don't have anything materially, but they'll share what they have with you. And they don't have enough money to either eat and feed their family or to pay for some simple surgery for a family member that will die if they don't get that surgery or that medicine. They have to choose between that. So it's like, I think that shaped me. I mean, it broke me for a long time. I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm really driven to do what I do. It's the best way I know to combat, the things that it's the best way to be the change I want to see in the world. Like I can't do any more than I can do, but I'm gonna stand for that, for dignity and humanity. It's worth living for, dying for. So
yeah. Well,
just keep
thank you for
living
the
it.
work that you're doing because it's so inspiring, Daniel. So,
Sure.
we could continue talking for a long time, I'm sure. There's so many stories in you. But we'll we'll leave it here for now. But thank you for your time and thank you again for getting up so early in the
I
morning to
know, amazing.
share your
Oh,
story
it's
with us.
it's it's been such an honor to be here with y'all. And yeah, anything I can do to support your community, just keep me posted. I just realized for the sound, for the instruments, I've got a YouTube channel and you can check out my website too.
Oh, good.
Maybe you can attach those. It's
Yeah, I'll
just
do
Peace
that.
Culture Music. Just my business name, Peace Culture Music. And I got a ton of videos of just sharing presentations and travel things that I created with different friends, like different places. So anything I can do to serve our community, it's how I learn and it's how I
Yeah.
give what I have.
Have you been to Australia yet?
Man, that's the hot. Don't mess with me, man. That's the
Mark,
highest on my list. Highest
Mark,
on
you've
my
got to book
list, man.
him. You've got to
Yeah.
book
It's the
him.
it's the highest on my list. You saw my didgeridoo Yudaki collection,
Yeah.
man. I just want so bad. I know a man that lives in Kakadu. He's First Nations brother, and I have an open invite. So God willing, I'll get out there. I was hoping to this year, but it didn't quite pan out. So I'm putting it out there, and like I said, anything I can do to support y'all, I'm just trying to make a way to get out there. And if I do, I would love to visit as many places as possible. I really like to have a few weeks that I can cover where I can do some just free shows at some Aboriginal communities so I can learn and also share. I think it's
Well,
very
we'll try and
important.
figure out a way to get you out here so that you can maybe do some, um, you know, education at
Cool.
schools, but also for
Yeah.
educators and then also in indigenous communities.
It will
And
be an
also
honor.
we sponsor a school in the Western Desert of Western Australia. It's actually considered the world's most remotest school.
Cool,
So
cool.
I know it's so cool. So with Mark's connections, there's so much that we could do
Mm.
and connect you with
Yeah.
schools on the eastern seaboard and get you into some Indigenous communities.
Yeah.
You do need a permit. You just can't get in your
Of
car
course.
and drive around.
Yep, yep,
It's sort of
yep,
yeah, it's like going to the Navajo Indians. You
yep.
need permits, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're just such a gift. You're
Thanks.
amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Like,
It means the world to be
You
validated
you
by
really are,
fellow.
Daniel, and I just think what you're doing with children in your area of where you live and with the going into the jails, I just think, it's the power of one. You can make a difference just with the
mm,
power of one. So don't ever
Thanks.
underestimate what you're doing
yeah.
because you have a powerful force there. You
Yeah.
are phenomenal.
Here.
Thank you for that. I'm glad to have
I,
y'all on
I,
the
I really mean it.
team.
You're
Yeah.
one out of the box. You're
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. So thank you for
Thank
Thank
getting
you,
up
Sarah
so
Jane.
early. I
My
really
pleasure. I'm gonna
appreciate
go
it.
watch the sunrise now and bask in our wonderful interview together. So anything I can do, let me know. I'll look forward to next time we're together.
you. All right.
Cool.
Thank you,
Right.
Daniel.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Pleasure.
Take
everybody.
care.
See
Ciao,
y'all next
ciao.
time. Peace.
Bye.
Ciao.